Good afternoon. First of all, thanks for all turning up for our first Capital Markets Day. So this is the first time that we've done such an event, so we'd obviously appreciate feedback on the things that we could do better and the things that we could do even better. Now this is a big day for me because it's my first Capital Market Day, but more importantly, this morning on the train on the way down, I succumbed and I bought a Hartlepool United season ticket for next year and renewed because today was the last day I could do it. So today will always stick in my mind for two reasons. First Capital Markets Day and renewing my Hartlepool United season ticket. Now obviously we're fresh off the results announcement and as I look in the audience I can see there's a number of people that we've already spoken to about the results. So I'm afraid there's some slides that are going to look extremely familiar, but Andrew Burgess has told me I've just got to fly through these very quickly and not bore everyone to death. The good news is there are some different people to talk to you today, and I'd like to quickly introduce them to you. There's Ronnie Maher, from the IT Director of Clúid. And obviously you're all aware of the Clúid story that Ronnie and the CEO bought into the strategy of Castleton and the integrated solution back in January 2017. We've obviously, as I've mentioned, delivered the fully integrated solution for user acceptance testing and training in October 2017. And Ronnie's going to bring you right up to date with where they are in the journey and a bit about why they selected Castleton as a vendor. We're also joined by James Massy, and we're actually going to show some live software this afternoon of our latest technology. We're going to show some artificial intelligence, and we're going to show some virtual reality as well, and how that can be applied in the solutions we've got. We've also got Paul Sexton, who's Managing Director of our cloud delivery business, and he's going to explain a bit about how cloud delivery adds value to the Castleton proposition, and also some of the emergent trends that we've got on technology. There's Haywood, who'll do a recap of the finance slides. The finance slides will be reduced. They'll be less detailed than the ones that we did last week and the week before. We'll give an overview, and then I'll finish off with a conclusion and why we think Castleton's quite unique in the market. So if you look about Castleton, a brief bit of history. Castleton was formed through 9 acquisitions, 7 of which were software, 2 of which were managed services. And basically the objective was to make the software side an integrated ERP for social housing and adjacent markets. By adjacent markets, what we mean is you've got the social landlords and you've got the people who provide services to the social landlords, such as the contractors, your Waits, your Keepmoats, your Fortums, people who actually look after social housing on behalf of landlords. So very focused on the sector. We operate in UK, Ireland, as Ronnie will testify, Australia and New Zealand. We support over 600 of the housing associations. So we've got at least one of our solutions in 600. The majority of which, and 95%, is our own IP. We continually invest in R&D. We spent a lot of money last year doing the integration, and James is going to show some of we're not only doing new releases, we're creating brand new solutions. So if you look at it, the heavy lifting that was done last year was the integration of the solution. So quickly, I'll whip round the solution. We've got a CRM system, we've got document management, a finance, a housing, a strategic modeling solution, agile, which is mobile, the mobile enablement, the delivery of apps that can work on tablets or mobile phones. We've got a procure to pay, a maintain, a repair system, a service charge system, a new digital enablement platform, again, which James will show, data services, which is a data cleansing service, artificial intelligence. So all those solutions now are integrated, and we've now got 7 sites that are currently in the throes of implementing all those solutions fully integrated. We've obviously wrapped around that is our BI layer, and then that can all be delivered in the cloud, which Paul will talk about a lot more. So that is the Castleton solution set. So if you look at the market opportunity, there's 1,700 housing associations in the UK. There's 700 that have at least 1,000 properties. That's Castleton's sweet spot at the moment. Because if you've got less than 1,000 properties, you can probably manage those solutions on spreadsheets, or using a mixture of spreadsheets and Access and different technologies. As soon as you go over 1,000 properties, you really need to think about investing in technology. It's a £16 billion a year business, social housing. There's 16 billion collected. And of that 16 billion, 75 to 80% is paid through either universal credit or housing benefit. So they have very, very good visibility of revenue coming in. The market need is, there's a lot more drive to become more efficient, and that's because of the rent reductions. 3 years ago, the government passed legislation saying that the net rent every year for the 5 years, so that means they've got 2 more years to go, it's got to reduce between 5 and 10%. And the reason for that is, historically, rents increased every year, so the government had to pay more in housing benefit or universal credit. That was reversed with this, with a law that was put in 3 years ago. And what that's forced is, the social landlords are now looking at doing things more efficiently because they can't pass increases in running their housing stock onto the social landlords. There's obviously a move towards more digital services. And by digital services, what I mean is the housing manager having more ability to have an interaction on an iPad or a tablet, to go out and inspect a house and say the kitchen needs repairing, or the plumbing needs doing, or the central heating needs inspection. There's a lot more push on doing a lot more digitally. Same for a tenant. If a tenant wants to pay the rent online or through an app, or wants to log a repair through an app, there's a lot more move now to go digital. And there's obviously a big focus on compliance as well, whether that by the government. Although all the housing associations are registered charities, they are heavily regulated by the government. They get inspected on an annualised basis, and they've got to show that they're digitising or making available more of their services to the tenants. And then, if you look at the sector, very strong asset base, as I've mentioned, very predictable revenue streams, and a lot of government support and focus.
Hello everyone, my name is Ronnie Maher. I'm the IT Director in Clúid Housing, which you might tell from my accent is based in Ireland. We have about 6,500 units spread across all of Ireland, so we'd be the largest single housing provider in Ireland. And I guess I'm here today just to discuss the Castleton suite from the customer perspective and the journey we've been on with Castleton over the past year, I guess. Where this started from my perspective was about 3 years ago. We did an IT strategy for the business, and the big, sort of the main 2 themes at the time for the business was building our capacity. So we wanted to get a lot more units into the business over the next 3 years, and also providing a better service to the customers. And IT was seen to be a strategic enabler for that to happen. When I did my strategy at the time, we looked at our applications, And the main 4 pieces for me that we really wanted to achieve was that they were integrated, which is the first one, flexible, scalable, and mobile. They were the 4 main goals for me to make sure that we achieved the business goals. So I guess why Castleton? So when we started off in this journey, we had, which Dean's mentioned, we had 2 main applications in-house. We had our housing application and we had our finance application, and they were from separate providers. There was no integration between the 2 systems at all, which meant that it was manual uploading and downloading, manual integration. We had different versions of the truth. So I guess long before Donald Trump, we had alternative facts because these 2 systems didn't talk to each other, and there was a lot of work in making them do so. So again, the reasons we looked at Castleton were that it was modular, so we could acquire different modules and then lead to full integration. You didn't need to buy them all at once. You didn't need to go big bang. You could acquire each module, knowing that this would lead to full integration when you'd pick the ones that you wanted, so to speak. So that was a big attraction for us. Not only that, but we had some, I guess, when I started this project a year ago, we had some knowledge of Castleton already because we already had the brick system, which was good, and we had already implemented the repairs system, maintain, previously as well. And I guess it's important to know that when as we chose each module went through due diligence. We didn't just pick the next module because Castleton happened to have it. We rated the repair system versus other people's repair systems. So for instance, I was with MAS as our housing provider. They had a repairs module. It would have been easier for me to stick with that and go with their module. But we compared it to the Castleton one and some other ones as well. And we chose the Castleton one because it was had more functionality, it better met our requirements, it was a better fit. And as we've gone through each of the other modules, which I'll come to in a second, that's been a recurring process. We haven't just chosen a module because Castleton happened to have one. We compared it to other modules from other companies and said, actually, this is better. So we've chosen individual modules because of that. And over the past year, we've implemented. We kicked off looking to implement 6 modules during that year. So we kicked this project off. We signed contracts last January. We kind of kicked off really, I guess, in February, roughly speaking. We had 6 modules to put in, and we've now put in 4 of those modules over the past 12 months. So we've put in EDRM, we've put in Agile, we've put in P2P, we've put in the financial system. They're all in and live and are successful and working. We are now working on the next 2 modules, which is housing and CRM, which are the two missing pieces, I guess, which I'll come to. So in terms of the missing pieces that I mentioned there, we had, if you like, all of the modules around housing and financials. So we had EDRM, we had P2P, we had Agile. The piece that really brought it all together was the housing and CRM piece, which we wanted to get, because that ties everything together. And when Castleton acquired those, we looked at them again. We did a pretty thorough compare and contrast between the housing module and the financials modules, which were completely integrated, versus our own housing system and our financial system, which individually were actually okay, but they don't have the integration, and they wouldn't integrate with anything else either. So the big benefit was the integration again. So we did look at them, rigorous evaluation process, and we chose the housing module, the CRM module, and the financial modules because individually we thought they were better, but the integration between them really gave us the real value add. So the value, I guess, of the proposition from a business perspective. Obviously, I'm the IT guy, but what the business is trying to achieve, I guess, is that as I say, we are on a growth strategy. So we want to acquire more units, so it's building our capacity. We want to provide a better service to our customers at the same time. So this is seen for Clúid as a transformational project. It changes the way we work. The business is better integrated. It's just a systems thing. The business is better integrated. So we're able to do more with the same number of people, so to speak. So it's more with the same rather than increasing headcount. We can maintain the same headcount but do a lot more. People are more productive. Information we've better access to. Again, in a traditional model where you might have a housing system, perhaps a financial system, maybe a repair system, and they are all separate. Because it's one source of information as opposed to separate, disparate, disjointed sources, you've got better access to it. The mobility of Agile means that our housing officers who are out, in the field, we can get a call into our contact centre. We can see that there's a housing officer perhaps, around the corner. He can call in to that tenant. While he's there, he could raise a repair. He could collect payment. He could, report any ASBO issues. He can see their repair history previously. He can see their rent history. He can see at his fingertips the history of this tenant once he's talking to them. So our staff are more productive and we have better access to information. Traditionally, we would have had people going to tenants with, notebooks. We would collect information from the tenant, or if I was a property surveyor, I might do a void process on the house and do a site survey, write it on pieces of paper, bring it back to the office, type it up on the system. So again, it means that we can do more work and more productive work with the same resources through better access to information and through it being integrated information, not just having to have access to 4 different systems, if that makes sense. Communication is much better. There's less, what I call transactional effort. It's more value add. So again, when I say transactional, it's where people are spending their time downloading spreadsheets from systems, uploading them to other systems, trying to run reports from systems that aren't integrated. So I've got one set of data over here in one database, another set over here in another database, and you don't see trends, you don't see linkages, you don't see where you could improve the business and change direction, so to speak. So, there's better access. It's more mobile. It's more easily shared. Productivity. Just again, by way of example, we can process more invoices. We've implemented P2P back in November, which automates our invoice approval process. Before this, invoices came in. It was paper invoices. We distribute them to desks manually. Would wait for them to come back. You wouldn't know where they were, had they been approved, has someone setting them for a week or whatever. So it's automated. The finance now have visibility of what invoices are out there, who they're with, how long they're there, if they've been approved, who approved it, all that kind of stuff. So we can process more invoices now than we would have done traditionally. We would have had a person in finance who would have received all the invoices and typed them all up into the finance system. So the productivity gain there is obvious as well as more efficient. Something like stock condition surveys. We use Agile, which the folks mentioned, mobilises your data. So there's two parts to this. A, I can see all of the data about the tenant on my tablet, which is good. But whilst I'm there, I can raise a repair. I can do other work as well. Our property surveyors would have to go and do stock condition surveys. So we might acquire, 20, 30 houses or whatever in an estate. We need to do a stock condition survey to see what kind of condition the houses are in, how much work they need, and so on. Again, traditionally, our guys would go out and would complete the survey on pen and paper. So they would, and it's quite a tedious process of going through that. Everything that needs to be done. So all on pieces of paper, bring it back to the office, type it up into the housing system. So in terms of the number of surveys you get done in a day, compared to using the automated solution, it's like double. Because you're collecting the information whilst you're there. So I'm in the house, I'm in the estate, I've got my tablet, I can complete the stock condition form. As I complete the form, it'll write back to the housing system, so the folks back in HQ can see the results of that survey instantly. It's not been done twice. So again, productivity increases. So again, it's back to being working smarter, I guess, rather than harder. I can get more productivity with the same number of resources. we can get through more houses, we can get through more invoices, and so on. So our housing officers before would, they'd visit a house and they would, again, not have access to real-time data, not be able to raise forms. Now they can do all of the above. We can take payments, we can raise ASBO queries, we can send out letters while I'm there, we can raise a repair while I'm there. It transforms the way people work. So it really is seen to be transformative rather than like a step increase. It's seen to be a really key enabler to what we want to do. In terms of the relationship with Castleton, we have signed, it's a 10-year strategic relationship with Castleton to develop the fully integrated suite. So I know Dean mentioned this, but we are I guess we're the first ones to implement the fully integrated suite. So we're the early adopters, I guess. But what's been implemented it's not a Clúid specific integration suite. It's been developed by Castleton so that as the modules have been developed, as the integration has been developed, it's generic, it's industry wide rather than just for Clúid. If I wanted to do something that is unique to Clúid, then I'll have to go and pay extra, so to speak, because it's unique to us. So it's been developed as an industry integration application rather than a Clúid one, which is, I guess, important to know. It's a big commitment by both companies. Obviously, we are the first ones to do this. Clúid or Castleton are the first ones to develop a fully integrated suite like this. So we both are. It's an innovative approach. Clúid would pride themselves on being quite innovative. So we are the early adopters. We are the first one to do this. And likewise, Castleton. But I think the payback to both to Clúid and the payback to Castleton in terms of the industry and other customers is worth it, which is why we're doing this. Project update. I guess I should talk about this one. As I say, we knew Castleton from 2016. We had already bought the bricks modelling application. We had bought and implemented the repairs module. And again, just to mention, the repairs module, when we implemented it, was for a pilot project in Clúid. All of our repairs were generally outsourced to some large subcontractors. We decided we'd try a pilot project in one part of the country where we would have our own operatives with our own vans and our own stock. And when a call came in from the tenant to replace the boiler or fix the window or whatever it happened to be, we would send our own operatives there to do it and so on. So we needed software to organise the scheduling of the jobs and the vans and so on, and also to manage the stock. So we kicked off a pilot. We implemented Maintain, the repair system from Castleton to do that, and it's been a success to the extent that what was a pilot is now going to become a national scheme. We're rolling out to all of our schemes across the whole country now. So it's indicative of how well it's gone, I guess. So we knew Castleton from that. So last year, obviously Castleton acquired housing and CRM, which meant that we could now realise the vision of real integration across all the modules. So we signed a contract back then, and the goal for the following 12 months was to implement 6 different modules. So they included P2P, which I've mentioned, which has gone in, which has automated our invoice process. Agile, which has gone in successfully. We are using Agile right now for the stock condition surveys, for instance. So we have our property surveyors using the Agile forms to do those surveys in an automated way, as replacing the pen and paper, which we used to do before. So finance has gone in, P2P has gone in, EDRM has gone in as part of P2P. So those 4 have gone in successfully as scheduled. What's left is we have housing and CRM still to go. Now, this time last year we were hoping to get that by March, by April, we will have housing and CRM also in to go with the other 4 I just mentioned. Those two have taken longer. A few reasons for that. One, I guess the level of integration is quite complex. So I guess it was more complex than I guess we both realised. I guess so. That was one factor. The resourcing and the planning, so to speak, is something that we needed to work on as well. We had plans which was ourselves and Castleton agreed on as to when things would be implemented and in what sequence. But the plans, I think, in hindsight, need to be more detailed. So our planning was there, but I think another level of detail was really required to make sure that nothing was missed. So we've both, I think, learned from that, and that has been addressed now and resolved. But that was one factor. We had some work to do internally ourselves on data migration, data cleansing, which we had to do, and also I guess the testing. We had time put aside for user acceptance testing, which we are currently in the middle of, and I personally wanted to make sure that we had enough time for testing, and we didn't try to squeeze the testing time, which although people are often keen to get through testing, get into implementation. Because I'm old and have done this before, I would rather we spend longer going through UAT and find the issues now than go live a couple of months earlier and run into issues post go live. So we really wanted to make sure we had enough time to do more testing. So as I say, right now, there's 4 modules gone in. That's successful. We are in the middle of UAT. It's a 3-cycle UAT process, so we're now in cycle 2. It's going okay. We need to make sure it keeps going that way, but that's where we are right now. So that's going on right now. Once UAT is finished, we've got to roll into training, which is going to take us a few months because we have offices across almost every county in Ireland. So just the logistics of training everyone takes time. So our date right now is in October. Right now, I'm still pretty confident that October is achievable. So that's in terms of the project right now. That's where we are. That's where we've come from. 4 modules have gone in. There is 2 left. We are in the middle of UAT. Once that finishes, we're going to have training, and then it's October implementation date. Lessons learned along the way. I think I've mentioned. There's been quite a few. It's as from a Castleton perspective, they're the first company to really develop a fully integrated suite. So that's not an insignificant task. We are the first customer with which they're implementing that suite. So again, both of us have learned lessons in terms of how we go about doing this. Some more work on the planning side. More work from my side on the testing to make sure that's done as well. Data migrations, we've done a few of them to make sure that the data is as clean as it should be, so we get the full value of the implementation. So there has been some lessons learned, but I think any lessons that have been learned have been resolved. So, for instance, I've seen the planning improve, I've seen the governance improve, our data is improved, the testing is going reasonably well. We've got another cycle still to go, so I've still got time here. It's been a very busy last year or so, but it's been pretty successful. There's a clear direction where the company wants to go in terms of what we want to achieve from this, and there's an acknowledgement that the Castleton suite actually gives us that, and it is seen to be transformational. So it's been a busy road. It's been productive. It's been successful. It's been hard. It's been stressful. I had a full head of hair when we kicked this thing off. But it's so we're in UAT now, looking to go live in October, and really realise the benefits of getting the final couple of pieces across the line as well. So that's it, I guess. Really, thanks very much.
Hi everyone, my name's James Massy. I'm the COO of Castleton. I'm going to take my life in my hands now, or my career in my hands. I'm not sure which one it is, to show you some software. I'm going to go through a number of things. One of them is using our Castleton AI platform. We decided to use the Amazon Alexa or Amazon Echo devices to be able to facilitate this. So there's a drive in the sector around the use of digital technology. As Ronnie said, you know, they need to do more with either the same staff and build more and so on and so forth. I think what's key is, as a provider, you know, we need to embrace that technology. So the Amazon devices, I'm sure you guys have probably got some of these things at home, are quite, they're fairly cost effective. Their platform is a fairly simple platform to use. And so we embarked on a little project. We set some of the development team a little project to be able to take some of the new space technologies and kind of go away and have a little play with them. So I'm going to run through a little bit of an overview around what that can do and some of the potential around that. Dean then referred to this product called Castleton.digital. I'm not going to show that just. I'm not going to show you. I'm going to show you a few slides on that one there, but there's a big drive again around making a digitally attentive landlord. So there's lots of landlords in the UK, as Dean referred to. You know, they're all kind of vying for that position. So I think those who have got the best digitally attentive, you know, platforms are probably the ones who are going to succeed the most. And also providers such as Waits and our commercial partners, so Waits, Fortum, Keepmoat, Lakehouse, and so on and so forth. Again, they're looking for service differentiators. You know, a plumber is a plumber for all intents and purposes, so they have to look for something different then to be able to continue to win that business. So the beauty is, you know, those guys' drive was then to deliver more technology, and that's exactly where we are. Our mobile working platform, Agile, as Ronnie referred to earlier on, that is for our staff, for the staff to use. And again, I'll go through a demo of that on the iPad. So basically, you know, putting the data in the hands of those that need it on the field. So they're out and about in the field with their residents and their properties. And again, it's about the ability to present that particular data out there. I've got a short video on augmented reality. Apple released an AR kit, an augmented reality kit. I've got a small video to play on that, and again, just some of the future things that we're looking at. And then just very briefly at the end, I'm going to show you what our product roadmap is for the next quarter through to the end of 2019 into 2020. So whereas Dean and Ronnie have had no risk at all with theirs going wrong whatsoever, unless they'd have lost their voices, it was never going to go wrong, was it? So I've got plugged into, just to prove it's real, a real Amazon Fire Stick. So the two risk factors in this now are, number one is the Mexico-Brazil game just kicked off. So we're on the wireless network in this building. So just in case everyone's sat upstairs streaming this on their TVs, we'll see how this one pans out. So there is so I can't tell you what I'm doing in between this because it'll go off-piste. But it'll make sense what I'm doing. So it's Amazon Fire Stick with the audio remote. I'm going to tell it to do something for me. I'm going to give it a command called Open Stadia Housing, which I'm going to tell it in a minute. So Stadia Housing is just the name of our demonstration company, that's all. I'll put something else on. There you go. It's called Stadia Housing. So when I say to it in a minute, Open Stadia Housing, and I'll go through the rest of the spiel then, and that's just what our demonstration company's called. So let's see how well this works. So Open Stadia Housing.
Welcome to Stadia Housing. Please provide your online access ID.
It is 56407400.
Thank you. How can I help?
What's my balance?
Checking your balance. Please wait. You are currently in credit by £42.41.
When did I last pay?
Checking when you last paid. Please wait. You last made a payment to your account on Wednesday, the 21st of February 2018.
Call me tomorrow.
We have registered your request to receive a callback. Thank you.
Add Haywood Chapman to my tenancy.
We have registered your request to have Haywood Chapman added to your current tenancy. Thank you.
So what that shows there, and just to show that some of those, so that is real, is all of that interaction. So all the integration we've written with Clúid, we've specifically written it so that we can integrate to it with a variety of entry points. So by that I mean that is obviously something that a tenant could have one of those in their property. They're fairly cheap. So Haywood bought me this one as a little present. He's very good like that. So you know the principle is a tenant could have that on their property. They could use that then as their entry point then into their services. So if you think about what I've just done there, got my balance when I last paid, added him to my tenancy, those transactions carry a fairly high cost. So there's a number of studies in the market around interaction cost between, you know, £5 and 20 quid, whatever it would depend on. So those types of things are, you know, are blatantly cost-saving, cost-saving points. So just to further take my life into my hands, I'll just quickly show you the effects of what I've just done. So it's probably a little bit small there, but basically this is what I did before we started, just to prove in Blue Peter fashion. Here's one I did earlier. So my new requests have come in now here, so it's quite small. It says Mr. Townsend, which is my name and my tenancy person, has requested Mr. Haywood Chapman's added to their current tenancy. Okay, so it's real. There's no demoware, there's no smoke and mirrors. I could have chosen any name. You know, that integration there is instantaneous into the back office core solution. And the same thing as well would apply. So I requested to receive a call. So I said, call me tomorrow. It's already said that I've requested to receive a call back on tomorrow's date. So that transaction there is instantaneously fed back into the core solutions. The tenant can get acknowledgement that back then to the app platform, and again they can see all those. So from a landlord's point of view, that entry point there is absolutely invaluable. You know, their necessity then to service that tenant is you know, the cost to service that tenant is far less, and you know, it's one of those critical ones where you can save costs by kind of deploying one of those technology platforms. Things like the Echo Show is one with the bigger screen on there, so it's the same kind of thing as that. Again, it's one of those platforms. So we're looking now where we can integrate into document management. So our document management solution, if the tenant was to receive a letter from the association, it's fed into our document management solution. So again, to save costage, can we get the device to read the document back out to them? So it could almost say you've got new post, and then is that then a wider thing we can start to look at? So again, there's a number of options around that. Our Castleton.digital platform is, again, the need in the market and the need in the sector is around, you know, to put digital services. So whilst the Alexa thing's a fantastic thing while you're in the property, obviously it's not a mobile thing because it's obviously wired to a television or whatever it needs to be. So there's a big drive in the sector around digital, you know, digitization of services, you know, again, using those Alexa platforms and all those types of things. So we embarked on a project middle to late last year, whereby there's a number of apps on the sector. We have two of them, which are quite, you know, they're good. They deliver data. That's all fine and fantastic stuff. But really, they're quite a flat digital journey. You know, people expect now a far more fluid digital journey. So I actually tasked the guys. So before I did this role, I was the strategy director. So I tasked the development team with coming up with an app that basically was a digital map based upon their data. And so what I mean by that is, if someone was to log into the app, they will be dynamically taken to a page based upon their data. So if the tenant owed you some money, for example, when they log into the app, it will take you straight to a payment page where they can make a payment from, as opposed to going to a flat page and then having to have them to make a payment. If they have maybe an outstanding survey, it will take you straight to a page where they can complete that particular survey. If they weren't a tenant, but they were a prospective tenant, it will take them to a page where they can fill in an online application form. So it's a single platform, a single app that all stakeholders can then use across their organisation, and their journey is fully mapped based upon their data, but it's seamless to them. So again, they log in, they go straight to a payment page. There's a big demons about the compliance. There's a big compliance in the sector around gas servicing. So everyone has to have the gas boiler service every 12 months. And, you know, it's a big red flag in the sector. So again, using our Maintain product, we can present them then with a form then say you need to book an appointment. So the tenant can log in, it says, oh, your gas servicing's due. They click a button, it sends them an appointment back, it's all done seamlessly. And again, that's what we've embarked upon. That's something that's going to be coming out in the next probably 2 months. Again, I think it'll be a big game changer. We've put a lot of time, money and effort into this. We've met a lot of people in the sector and spoken about this. So me and Dean have been out to meet with various people to talk about where it's going to go to. So again, I think that'll be a very, very, very big thing. Our Agile mobile working platform, I'll just switch the screen over here. Again, this is designed specifically for staff who are mobile. I'll just put this into, there we go, look, that's a lovely old job. So, mobile working platform using an iPad. The principle of this is, you have any member of staff who's out and about in the field. They take one of these devices out. There's obviously a big push in all sectors now with GDPR and data security. So, you know, everybody now, you know, is obviously, you know, quite conscientious and quite nervous about data leaking out of the business. So people printing things out and taking them out in the field, again, is a big no-no. To be fair, should have always been, you know, the Data Protection Act should have always prevented that. But so the principle here is a housing officer or any type of inspector, whatever, could take one of these devices out with them. They can be sent their work or they can request their work on demand. Works in a occasionally connected state, so if they're in somewhere with no service, it will still continue to operate. It will just queue up the messages until they go back. It's fairly straightforward. What I'm going to do is go to a couple of little simple options in here. First one is top right-hand corner, it knows where I am. Although that says 81 Gresham Street, it's pretty accurate. I assume that's next door somewhere. So it knows where I am. There's a beauty there is the fact that, you know, we can use things like lone working. So we have a number of organisations who use us for lone working, so they can track where their staff are. Because again, from a health and safety personnel percentage, you know, that's obviously required. And again, that's what we can do with that. Pretty critically, they can go into search for a person. So I go into search for a person. My demo person is a guy called David Townsend, as you saw on the previous screen. So I can go in there and search for him, or I can search for his property. It doesn't really matter which one I choose. I go into his property. And so if you picture now, I'm out and about, I'm in a tenant's property, off to go and see them. I've got up here now huge amounts of data, so I know where they are, their phone numbers, their gender, their national insurance number, dates of birth. I know about their property, who the officers are on the property. I know where it is. I've got a Google Street View. I've got all their balances, all the various types of pieces of data around them, all from a single pane of glass. Furthermore, I can snap that out to the top right-hand side. If they have our integrated CRM solution, I could press CRM and I could bring back all their CRM. So I can see a chronological list of all their interactions with this particular individual. So every time they contact their landlord, you know, when you're out and about, you're able to see that. And that's again, that seamless integration between the mobile platform and the CRM solution. As Ronnie referred to, while they're out, they can also look at things like their repairs. So again, there's obviously a big, you know, lots of properties, lots of repairs, lots of issues, you know, potentially with the property. So go into there, they can look back at the whole repairs history. So they can see all outstanding repairs, they can see the completed repairs, you know, they can go back as far as they want to. So again, the value in that and the cost saving to the organisation is huge, because otherwise they have to ring somebody, they may have to wait in a queue, you know, again, the whole thing is just there at the touch of a button. As Ronnie said as well, one of the key things there is if they're out and about, they could go into report a repair. So they may say, you know, they're out with the tenant may say, oh, I don't know, my fence is blown down or the toilet seat's broken or something like that. They can go into report a repair from the device. So they can say, you know, what's wrong? When do you want an appointment by? What phone number? Take pictures, upload pictures. And again, it's almost fire and forget. So they take the picture, they put the notes and now the documentation in there, they press the button and it goes back. And again, it all feeds back into the core solution. They can, if they wish, look at other people, look at other properties, drill into our document management solution. So as we've all referred to now, we have our own document management platform. Again, we integrate into that fully as well. We can take payments. So we have integration with a couple of payment solutions. And again, we can take payments out and about in the field. As Dean said, universal credit. You know, when people are transitioning into and out of that, you know, there's a necessity to take payments. Probably one of the advantages of this platform then is you build them to complete a form. So you can have any number of forms. So you could be out with a tenant and they may want to be able to log a case of antisocial behaviour. So I go into the antisocial behaviour form, that particular form. Again, they're in full control of this. Very straightforward, it pre-populates the first page, but the second page, what type do you want to report? Is it a risk of fire, loitering, domestic violence, drug abuse, environmental issues, whatever it may need to be. Again, all the things that are, you know, required for a landlord to log. So, you know, without going into any more detail about these, but so in essence, they can log the issue there. Again, all the things, you know, all the things on the compliance are all then logged, safeguarding, you know, working at heights, lone workers, vulnerability, all those types of things there, again, are all logged through this particular platform. If we have to bring in partner agencies, we can integrate with the police systems or council or various support organisations. Again, we've done interfaces out to those particular parts as well. And again, the forms can do all sorts of, you know, clever things. So again, they know what, now it says I'm 85 now when I've walked this side of the room. Should just keep wandering around. So we can take photographs, we can take videos, we can do audio interviews on them. We know where we are geographically. We can do things like sign the screen so we can capture digital signatures for people. And again, there's a lot around that. So, you know, there's a big there's a big compliance thing in the sector around this kind of evidence gathering, and things like geotagging where you are and signatures, whatever, again, are all kind of native in the platform. We can, perhaps just one other quick one, we could do things like satisfaction surveys, so our repairs customers, so people like the Waits and the Fortums and the Lake Houses of these worlds, they will need to do a satisfaction survey. So they go through the process whereby they can give the mobile device to a tenant at the end of the particular job, and then it says up here, did the engineer display his or her badge? Were the details explained? Scale of 1 to 10, would you recommend us? Would you recommend the service provider? Those types of questions in there. So again, using this particular platform then in that other sector that obviously we have. And again, those guys obviously measured on satisfaction. So gathering this in a quick and a robust manner is absolutely critical to their organisations. So, from a staff point of view, it's invaluable. This device here will save them an enormous amount of money. And so Ronnie's already got this. And so actually what Ron didn't say is we've actually integrated this over their existing housing system as well. So whilst they're still using their MIS solution until they go live, we've actually integrated this over there because this is not tied into our solutions. It's core system agnostic. It will integrate into anything. It doesn't have to be one of our solutions. It could be MIS or Capita, Civic, or Orchard North. It could be any of those particular solutions. What we're also looking at is what we can do with the AR kit. I'll just maximise the screen. What we can do with the AR kit within inside that. So this is the same kind of principle. So the theory of augmented reality is you're overlaying technology into the real life world. So there's a little video here. It only lasts for 20 odd seconds. But what you'll see is, as the video progresses through there, so it works out where I am. This is our little dot here where I am. And this is all my properties around where, that's actually our offices in Sutton Coldfields. And you'll see as we walk out into the car park, which is what's going to happen in a second. There you go, look. So that's outside our car park. So what we're doing there is we're overlaying on this video up here. Let me just pause that. Just wait till it goes back 1 second. Stop. So we're overlaying here all the businesses that are all around us. So if you've ever been to our offices are surrounded by other businesses. So we're basically taking our agile platform, pointing the camera out at the world, basically. And then we're overlaying then a number of data tags over and above that. So the principle of this is you could be a housing officer walking down a street. You could literally point the device at the property and you could see, for example, do they owe you any rent? Are there any outstanding gas services, any missed appointments, any surveys that may not have been done, any of those types of things without you having to actually go away and do it. And so once we find the record that we're after, it will simply get to the record. We'll press the record, and then it will bring up then some of the data entries that were on one of the previous screens. It looks slightly different on there because of the way that it's been videoed. But the principle is using that augmented reality overlay, again, is something that really, you look into the sector and you go, well, actually, does this technology play a point in the sector? I think it absolutely does. It's where and when that wants to fit in because, again, these things are obviously quite new. And again, I think it's important that, there's a provider that we can show some of those things. Me and Ron spoke this about these guys looking at this, as a potential for them going forward. So the Agile and the AR kit will work quite nicely together, in that kind of harmonious solution. And then if I go into, just go back into here, I want to just finish off by just showing you just a little brief about our current roadmap and where that's going to. So our roadmap is quite detailed for the see, everyone's watching the football now, for the coming quarter. So there's a number of releases out through the way to Q2 2019-2020. I won't go into each of these ones, but if we just go into June, obviously that's just finished. So. Three new or major updated products in June 2018. So we developed a Castleton platform. This is basically designed to be a single licensing portal. So again, when Paul comes on to talk about our software as a service ability, it's important we can onboard and offboard products quite quickly. So our platform is designed then to basically tick a box to enable a module. That's one of the key drivers in it. our CRM solution went through version 4. That's to become GDPR compliant, to allow things like right to be forgotten, subject access requests, all of those types of things. So again, quite a major upgrade to that particular product. And our EDRM solution, which Dean mentioned earlier on, we've launched a brand new version of that, which is basically a kind of a ground-up rewrite with all the latest technologies. We've taken all the latest and greatest from Microsoft, and again, we've written all those things into there as well. So, there's quite a lot coming up in there. If we go quickly into July, we're writing a new scheduling software. So Maintain, or the repair solution, currently has a scheduling platform within it. We want to span that out further because that's currently anchored into that particular platform. Again, there's a need in the sector as well to drive scheduling because people want to be able to do appointed visits for anything. So not just a repairs operative, but a housing officer or an assistant or whatever it needs to be. So again, driving that kind of dynamic scheduling platform forward. Again, it's something that we're doing. So again, that's going to be coming out in there. And then probably I'll just skip a couple, move forward into Q4 2019. So we're launching a new stock control solution. So Ron mentioned earlier on the fact that those guys have stores. Again, a number of organisations are doing this. There's a big demand, again, for us to, the customers demand that we look at these types of things. So we're writing a new stock control solution now around, parts in and parts out and stuff like that. So that's one of the things we're writing there. And then the .digital will be to market probably late Q3 this year. So from a roadmap point of view, there's a lot of features in there. There's a seriously large amount of product, and again, we have regular customer updates with those. The customers are well aware of where we're going to. We've got a series of roadshows starting tomorrow. So we're going around the country, taking all of this technology, from Bristol all the way up to Scotland and around to see many customers to kind of keep them up to date as to what we're doing with the software.
My name is Paul Sexton. I'm the Managing Director of Castleton Managed Services. So just to give you a bit of background on Castleton Managed Services, Dean mentioned earlier that we are the formation of 2 acquisitions that Castleton made. One, the original, which was Montal. Montal offered a number of support managed services ranging from first, second, third line support. They had an engineering team that used to go out and perform engineering-related activities at customer sites. Later, they purchased a company called Keylogic. Keylogic's main benefit was to offer cloud-related managed services and professional services. Clearly, the two of them are complementary to each other, and the idea that Castleton Managed Services could deliver both its engineering resource, its consultancy teams from Keylogic, all delivered via the cloud. The forward thinking there is that ultimately at a certain point in time, the Castleton software set will be written such that it is delivered in a multi-tenant, cloud-enabled way. There's a good chance that probably not everybody is completely clear on the cloud and exactly what that means. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of our services in greater detail here so that we can all understand ultimately what that means when I say that we're going to deliver it in the cloud. So Managed Services has a number of customers. In the terms of the Castleton 600 customer portfolio, probably about 100 of those are decent spending customers with Managed Services. The idea there for us in the sector means that there's clearly another 500 customers that Managed Services currently don't have an interaction with, and we can deliver services moving forward. Now, many of those services can include the cloud, clearly, and desktop as a service, the first one mentioned. Ultimately, what this is talking about here is it's a full outsource. This is where a housing association provider will decide that they want to make internal efficiencies by outsourcing all of the infrastructure, all of the tin, that capital investment that they make on a year-on-year basis, along with wrapping around a managed service. So typically what they will look to do is to look at their IT departments and determine that the best use of their time is actually working on business systems. So they'll look at a managed service provider like ourselves to come in and take care of the infrastructure, the platform, things like their email, their servers, their remote access, Office 365. So that's where we talk about desktop as a service. So essentially, we'll take all of your infrastructure and we'll deliver it out of our cloud. Now, Castleton's cloud is based across a couple of data centers, geographically dispersed, one based in Maidenhead, the other based in Gosport in Hampshire. They're tier 3 data centers. We own all of the equipment delivered in those data centers. We don't own the data center itself. We merely take space in those data centers, the IMART data centers. But we own all of the capacity, all of the tin. We maintain a large amount of physical space to increase so that they've got that ability to elastically expand and take more services as they require. Clearly, it isn't the hyperscale size of somebody like Azure or Amazon, but what it does deliver is it allows us to deliver that fully integrated wraparound managed service, which you wouldn't be able to get if you went to an Amazon or a Microsoft. That would be more for those that look to go for platform as a service. So in other words, they keep their own internal IT departments and just take some space and some compute from Microsoft. So the key for us is actually that wraparound service where we'll control it, we'll offer strategic advice on how they should and shouldn't be delivering their systems. Because unfortunately, that's not always quite clear for housing associations. Now, for many, there's a journey to moving into the cloud. And that isn't always, unfortunately for us, just turning around and saying, Paul can manage services, just take all of that straight away and deliver it in the cloud. For many, they've already made investments, they've already spent money on equipment. So what we have there is these kind of platform as a service and infrastructure as a service solutions. That allows the customer to start taking part of the service. So it might be that they relocate all of their internal equipment into our data center, allow us to manage it and look after it for them while they sweat the assets, and then start taking the services as they need to consume them, so on demand in that respect. So one of the reasons why we have our own managed service platform is clearly to be able to deliver all of our software products through that cloud. Now, why not Azure? Why not AWS? Well, a number of reasons. Partly compliance, partly the location and data sovereignty, which we can control in the UK, and partly because it allows us to have that tight control so that we can ensure that both the platform and the software products are interoperating as they should. Now, that being said, it doesn't mean that we don't use any public cloud services from Microsoft or Azure. Kind of one of the unique selling points about Castleton is that we'll actually look at where they're applicable, where they offer a good use case. For example, Office 365 has been adopted by most housing associations, and we'll look at how we can integrate those into our solutions. Many of our hosted customers at the moment use services like Office 365, whether that be for licensing, whether that to be putting some of their SharePoint data, OneDrive, and so on and so forth. So we'll actually look at the balance between where we can deliver the service and we can control it and we can deliver it highly performant, highly resilient, and where they can actually see economies of scale by using certain public services like Office 365. So I would describe Castleton's cloud as the best of both worlds, and that hybrid approach is seeing us win a large customer base at the moment, seeing a large increase in the demand for cloud services. You'll see a software wheel up here, or you saw a software wheel previously. You'll now see a managed service wheel, which talks about some of the solutions that we offer. Hostit clearly being our cloud services that I've just spoken about. Surety is a brand name that we've had for a number of years in the sector that ultimately talks about backup and DR solutions. And we use a number of technologies to deliver those backup and DR solutions so that we give customers the flexibility in terms of how quickly they can recover, in terms of how often they can back up their data. Wrapping around that would be Securit. So this talks about our security, or the security elements that wrap around our cloud environment. Clearly one of the areas that most people are very concerned about due to the amount of issues in the marketplace is cybersecurity. So at the moment, this is an area where we maintain Cybersecurity's Essentials Plus standards, and we're currently going through our 2018 audit at the moment to maintain that, for that qualification to be valid for this year. In terms of the housing associations, a lot of them have started to employ Cybersecurity Essentials. So we've gone one higher than that, and we've gone for the Essentials Plus service. This essentially means that we maintain our firewalls in the way that we should. We have threat protection, UTM bundles protecting in case of ransomware attacks. We look at the web and mail filtering solutions. We have a SIEM solution, etc. So that's where our Secure It solution comes in. Support It, clearly that is one of the areas that came from the Montel acquisition, where we have a large support service desk, which we can outsource to our customers, and managed IT. So this can essentially vary from customer to customer depending on their requirements, whether that be strategic or thought leadership that we offer into their base, all the way through to on-site engineers who will regularly attend site. Now, clearly, as a business, the area and the market that we want to move into is the cloud, or we want to strengthen what we currently offer. The reason being is it helps us with our recurring revenues, which is, as a business, the strategic direction that we're looking to take. I kind of showed a graph here, which shows the previous 2 financial years in terms of 2016 and 2017. Now, what they show is the new customer wins during those years. So clearly, 330,000 in 2016, slight increase in 2017 to 340,000. And about a year ago, we made that strategic decision that had to be the area that we were going to push. That's the area that customers wish to expand their services. We had a very successful 2018. These numbers form part of the numbers that Haywood will talk about later. And we did 1.07 million in net new business within the cloud. So clearly a significant shift in terms of our revenues. In terms of 2019, I'll talk about here is the opportunity. I'm not going to quite say that this is a sales forecast, and it certainly isn't budgets before Haywood gets concerned. But in terms of opportunity, this first half of the year alone equates to more than everything that we did last year. So I would say there's a significant opportunity for Castleton to continue to grow the cloud side of its business, and therefore increase the recurring revenue basis that we're currently operating within. I mentioned earlier there's 600 customers within the Castleton base, of which we've got about 100. Now clearly, those cloud customers can come from within our existing base of 100, or, as we're seeing quite regularly at the moment, coming from the software base, either as software as a service as their initial foot into the area, or customers that are going fully outsourced. If we look at the Irish sector at the moment, which clearly Ronnie's spoken about, some of the smaller HAs within Ireland have already taken a fully hosted service from ourselves, all of the software products delivered in our cloud. So the traction we're seeing off the back of success stories like Clúid and others is starting to drive the managed service side of the business as they're delivered in the cloud. Clearly, for this to grow even more than it already is showing, it requires the software products to be developed in such a way that they can be delivered immediately straight from the cloud. And what I'm talking about here is either via a web browser, via an app, not a classic application that sits on your PC with a back-end server. So it has to be delivered as a cloud-based application. And the software products are all being written moving forward in that method. And we have a number that are due to go live in the near future. James spoke about Castleton Platform 1. It's a solution that's written, ready to be delivered straight out of Castleton Managed Services Cloud in a manner that customers are used to seeing. So very similar to the Office 365 consume model, where they can just go and take a service, consume it for the number of users that they're looking for, and take that as a service subscription model. So in terms of the opportunity, it's dominating most housing associations' thoughts at the moment in terms of the cloud. Clearly for some, they've still got to determine exactly what that looks like for them, and their strategies will vary. One of the things that's key about Castleton, and it goes back to the previous businesses that we acquired as well, is that we've always had an extremely strong reputation within the sector at delivering strategic direction and leadership skills to internal IT departments in housing associations that aren't familiar with all the latest technologies. One half of the business didn't even have a sales force. It was all word of mouth. So the reputation is always quite important for us. So the reason why customers are comfortable to look to take services from Castleton is because we can explain the benefits and the reasons why. We can talk them through their business cases and help them to justify where they can make efficiencies internally and cost savings so that those business cases stack up. A lot of the time people don't completely realize how that would work. Many are looking to move away from a capital model to an operating model where they can speak to their finance directors and plan out their revenues and understand exactly what the services and the software products that they are looking to deliver to their landlords, actually what that's going to cost. And this service allows them to be able to scale elastically. And then clearly, one of the areas that most registered providers are probably not in good shape for is to handle cybersecurity and threats of that type. And by moving to a managed service provider that's got the internal skill sets to deliver that and to deal with those threats, they can start to de-risk their business. So for me, this gives us a huge opportunity in the sector to change the way that we see our revenues as a business. And I believe at the end we'll have some more questions, so anyone wants to talk about that can ask at that point.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm Haywood Chapman. I'm the CFO of Castleton. So I just thought give you a quick overview of the financial results for the year ended March 2018. So we had a good year in terms of revenue, up by 14.9% to 23.3 million. And of that revenue growth, 12.9% of it was organic in nature. So we acquired on the 1st of December an operation in Australia called Kinetic. That accounts for the difference between the 12.9% and the 14.9%. At adjusted EBITDA level, that grew by 16.7% to £5.1 million, and 15% of that growth was organic in nature. The other little bit, again, being accounted for by Kinetic. Looking at our revenues, recurring revenues, which obviously we're focusing on, grew to 14 million from 13.1 in absolute terms. That was actually a decrease in the percentage, and the main reason there was we've put a number of operational performance improvements into the business, and the revenues that respond the quickest are our sort of implementation, our professional services revenues. So they've increased as well, but they've increased proportionally more than our recurring revenues. And of course, there's a slight lag in our recurring revenue. So actually in the year, our sort of total recurring revenues order intake increased by 1.5 million. There's a little bit of a lag. So we recognised 0.9 of that within the financial year. As we went into the year end, there was 0.5, about 0.4, 0.5 in our backlog that will come through over the remainder of FY19. And we won't actually get a full year impact of that until FY20. So our profit, in terms of cash, that increased by 13% at operating cash flow level to 5.2 million, 101% operating conversion, and quite pleasingly, that's the second year in a row now that our operating cash conversion has been over 100%. What have we done with that? Well, we've used it to pay down our net debt, which is reduced at a total level, including our loan notes and our deferred consideration, from 9 million to 6.3 million. And so we've paid down some more of our Barclays bank loan, which amortises at £1 million a year. And we also acquired Kinetic, just over £1 million from the cash flow we generated in the year. Earnings per share, we've had some very large percentage increases. We won't get those going forwards. A lot of that was due to the recognition of a deferred tax asset relating back to 2016. That accounted for about 1.3 million in credit in the P&L. So that won't increase at those percentages going forwards. A couple of points I just wanted to make on this in terms of what James has talked about. We've got about 45 developers. They cost us just under £2 million. We capitalised 350k of that, so quite conservative really in terms of capitalisation, but that's effectively what we spend on our, our products and all the clever stuff that James has showed you. So I'd mention that point. So we grew our contracted backlog in the year, software by 9%, managed services by 8%. Now what this graph shows is the green bars represent our contracted backlog. So that's it's our existing contracted base with no new sales. So if we took our contracted backlog at the year end and flowed it out over the remainder, the following years, the green bars represent what that would look like. Our annual subscription products we show only for 1 year, but effectively they're recurring in nature. So the blue graphs here represent if we sold no new business as of today, that's what our revenues would look like up until FY24, assuming no attrition. And of course we've got very low levels of attrition, certainly less than 5%. And what we're also doing, we're incentivising our sales teams to sell longer term contracts to grow that contracted backlog as well. So for FY19, we've got 15 million of our revenues already contracted, 13 million of which is recurring, and that's an increase of 1.3 million or 11% against the prior year. So where do we think our growth is going to come from? Well, we've got 574 core customers. So core is our housing association customers and the associated contractor market. So again, it's people like Waits, Fortum, Keepmoat and Lake House, so the big sort of managed repair outsourcers that provide services to the social housing market. That 574 in the year, we increased the number of taking more than one product from 35 to 40%, and we've now got 6 customers taking 9 or more products, and that includes all of our software products and some who take the managed services, which we count as effectively one product. And given we've got sort of our target market is probably the largest 700 of the 1,700 housing associations in the UK, the 700 with more than 1,000 properties. We've got 574 of those, so it's not surprising that we sold 77% of our new product sales to our existing customer base. So we sold 116 new product sales across 20 new name customers and 53 existing customers in the year. As Ronnie was talking, I was thinking, I think the first product that Clúid had was Bricks, which is our financial modelling software. That was one of the businesses we've acquired. We sell that product on a historically quite a low £2,500 per legal entity annual subscription basis. We've actually got about 400 of those customers. So that's a really good foothold into each. We've got a wide number of customers that we can then got an opportunity to go and speak to. That's where Clúid started. And another of our clients who have taken all of the products is New Gorbals. So we've already heard from Ronnie regarding Clúid. New Gorbals in the year, just at the end of the year, signed up to take their 9th product. So their journey started with the original housing and financials in May 2006. So this was prior to Castleton acquiring that organisation. And then in December 2013, still prior to Castleton, they acquired the financial modelling software. Post-Castleton, the first Castleton product they acquired was in September 2016, which was the Agile product. They then signed up to take repairs and P2P, I believe that is, in January 2017. And then in March 2018, they've just signed up to take our CRM, EDRM, and business intelligence products. And we've got further opportunities with them for more products, which we're providing with our sort of third-party providers, Sagacity and PIMS. So in terms of focusing on the ARR, each one of these acquisitions of these products by New Gorbals has meant we've got a progression from where they started, taking 16% of the current level of ARR for that customer, to 100% ARR. So if we've got 574 customers, what our aim to do is to change the shape of that graph over a period of time and shift more of our customers to have more of our products. So that's just a snapshot of the the financials, and I'm going to hand back to Dean to close off.
So we've been asked to articulate what do we think the opportunity actually is. As we've mentioned, we've got over 600 customers, and as you've seen, we've got 60% of those customers only take one solution from us. So if we could get 200 customers to take 5 solutions, that would be an additional £20 million of revenue. Okay, so that's basically taking the customers that we've got now and selling five solutions, or taking them to 5 solutions and paying for each of those solutions on the size of housing that they've got. So if you looked at New Gorbals, where we've took them from 2 solutions through to 9 solutions, and in fact they're going to actually purchase another solution this quarter, we've shown that we can do it because we've got the integrated solution. As Paul mentioned, when we brought the businesses together and did the plan and strategy around them, the managed services business didn't actually have a sales force per se. We've actually put in 4 new salespeople into managed services, as well as 5 into software solutions. So if we could get 100 of our customers to take a fully cloud delivery offering from us, that would generate £25 million of additional revenue. So I guess if I was sat in your seat, the question I would ask is, well, why aren't you doing that now? That's a fair question. And I guess if you look at the journey that Castleton's come along, that it really finished its acquisitive stage in 2016. 2017 was all about the integration of the businesses, getting the story right, getting the software integrators, bringing in additional new sales capability, showing that we can deliver on what we say we're going to do with the likes of Clúid. So now our view is we've got a good platform for the future. We've got Ronnie and his project. We've got a number of managed services projects. And what that shows is, and Paul alluded to it on the managed services side, we're building a strong pipeline, and that's mirrored on the software side as well. And that gives us a good level of confidence in the business going forward. So who'd like to ask the first question?
Well, just sticking on that last point of yours, Dean, when you are charging the customer 250 grand per annum, what is the saving that you're able to show them?
Is that 250 grand on managed services?
Yes.
I'll pass over to my learned colleague. That's a beauty.
Yeah, so typically that £250,000 that probably equates to a customer that's a size of maybe 200 staff, something along those lines. That 250 will make up their software licensing that they currently pay. Customer with about 200 staff will pay Microsoft at the moment in the region of £70,000 to £100,000 a year in their software licensing. We're a Microsoft cloud solution provider at this point in time, so they can now purchase those software licenses from us, which they weren't able to do in the past. We can deliver them out of a shared platform, so using the Microsoft SPLA service, which allows them to no longer have to potentially buy and capitalize those licenses up front. They can now spread it on a monthly basis based on the number of users that use it. They will typically have a capital spend for equipment, hardware that they need, along with the relevant software to run those systems and virtualization software. All of that is included within our platform. The hidden costs that we've worked with housing associations to truly understand now is the cost of their data center. So the cost of actually running that kit, of running a data center, running power, running cooling, the impact of an outage that many of them have. Then it's the cost of their staff to look after that service, especially when they haven't necessarily got the relevant skill set, which they can therefore make a saving on when they move to an outsource. So typically when we do a business case such as this for a 250k organization, there is usually in the region of £50,000 to £100,000 saving over the term of the contract. But equally, on top of that, what they're then getting is a more robust service. They're getting a platform that is auto-tiering SANs as a very minimum standard, which many of them don't currently have. And they're getting an outsourced IT team with a skill set far greater than they could have with a small IT team in that size of probably about 4 people, 4 to 5 staff that concentrate on infrastructure. It's not very scalable. And equally, it's not where they want to be concentrating their efforts. As an IT department, they'd like to look at business systems and business applications. By moving that focus away to experts like ourselves that know how to handle it, they can then concentrate on the business systems as Ronnie and his team are doing.
Thank you very much. What a lovely answer. So I'm going to get greedy and ask one more then. And this is for Dean and probably somebody else. In terms of, I mean, you're obviously talking about selling more to those existing relationships and adding new products to new ones. So obviously you're making a very logical case, but the customer is not always logical. So how are you making them think logically?
So how we're doing it is, as you know, I sort of briefly touched on, the drivers with the customers is all about making more of the services digital. So they can't really just bury their head in the sand, because the regulators every year come round and measure them on how many digital services have you made available. They also look at compliance as well, because they now look at things like, you know, gas service and certificates, as James showed, but also inspections on buildings. You know, has that inspector been in that building and checked, you know, the emergency lighting, the fire alarms, the sprinklers? So for us, there's a lot more driver now with the compliance driven by the regulators that create people to come to us and say, what solutions have you got in order to enable them? So that's what we're seeing more and more of people coming and us being able to say, well, we've got particular solutions that will help you. You know, as Ronnie mentioned, you know, Clúid are all housing associations are incentivised and encouraged to build additional properties, as Clúid are, but also they are measured on not actually increasing the cost of delivering services for those properties, and the only way they can do it is by looking at software that provide more innovative or digital services. Okay. And one thing I didn't mention is that, you know, in the last 12 months we've done some work around in the background. So we're on G Cloud 10 now. So if a customer wants to come and buy the services of managed services, we're actually on there, and they can do that without going through a procurement. So we can do that. We're also on Crown Commercial Services frameworks, RM 1059, and a few other frameworks there as well. And these all enable organisations to spend money with us and avoid actually going out into the protracted OJU and European procurement.
Ronnie, you mentioned productivity as being a key benefit of doing what you've done. And you said invoicing and P2P and etc. But can you try to give us a feel of the monetary benefit or time benefit in terms of resources?
And from a monetary point of view, I guess when we went through the justification process, some of it was, like for instance, the P2P one, the invoicing one. I mean, there was a very straightforward business case that said the cost of, you know, processing the invoices today in terms of the staff we had, even things like, this might sound silly, but you know, because we had offices all over the country, we put invoices in envelopes and posted it to them, and so there's a cost of distribution, there's a cost of storage, there's a manpower cost for actually just processing the stuff versus the cost of the software and the annual subscription and so on. So it was a fairly cut and dried cost justification process in that instance. Likewise, when we did, say, the repairs piece, we already have a cost model for our current business, so it's all outsourced. At least it was all outsourced. So a call comes in, goes to the subcontractor, he does the work, fixes the boiler, sends us the invoice. So again, we went through an exercise of if we were to do this ourselves, so we have our own resources now, so the salaries there, vans, stock, all that kind of stuff, and the level of service we thought we could provide versus what they were currently providing. So some of it was very straightforward, resources and costs and so on, and some of it was the quality of service that we thought we could provide, which we reckon was better than them. So the P2P, there was very cut and dried numbers. The repairs piece, the same again, went through justification again. So each one of these has been a case of us going to the exec team or the board saying, here's what it costs today, here's what it will cost by doing this, and it was generally cheaper, but with a better service as well. If that makes sense. So it was a combination of both. Some of it you can't monetize. Some of it, the housing officer who's more productive, he can visit more houses a day than he could before. What's that worth as a number? He'll see more houses, he'll get to more customers, we'll have happier tenants. That's perhaps not as easy to put a number on, but you can still quantify sort of how much more work they could do, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Could you say anything about the Kinetic acquisition in Australia, and should we be viewing the Australian operation just as something which needed some more customers to get a little bit more scale, or are there grounds for any excitement about an increasing opportunity?
Yeah, for those of you that know a little bit of the history of Castleton, we did have an operation there through the Kaipira acquisition where we had 11 customers there. The Kinetic acquisition brought us an additional 50 customers. It brought us a housing solution that was very, very competitive in the Australian market and was winning pretty much all the new business that came out, because each of the states had different sets of requirements that our solution met but didn't really exceed. So for us, the opportunity was two or threefold. It was the Kinetic solution had 50 odd customers. It didn't have a mobile platform like Agile. It didn't have document management as we've got. It didn't have CRM. Was one of the opportunities. The other opportunity was that the Australian market's going through the same sort of changes that the UK did about 25 years ago, where the properties are being handed over from state organisation into new social housing organisations. So what we saw is there's more and more new housing associations being established in Australia, which gave us a strong solution for us to play in, as well as cross-selling our Castleton solutions into the Kinetic base. So, it was two or three very, key reasons: the market, the solutions we had, and also the fact that it was the solution that was winning competitive deals.
And in terms of the addressable market size, how does Australia compare to the UK now?
I would say it's at the moment it's probably 20% of the market, I would say, at the moment, but it is grown from a net new. The state government recently did an exercise where they outsourced about 500,000 properties, and they went to a whole set of providers, and we provided about 85% of the solutions to those properties. So it's a market that's growing all the time. What the government haven't said is how quick ultimately they are going to move those properties out there. But it gives us a good foothold now from the viewpoint that it was a break-even operation. It's now an operation that makes
and logistically, in terms of managing that operation, how do you cope with the time difference?
So we've got an Australian GM over there who runs the business. We have a regular, we have regular catch-ups with them on the phone. It's 9 hours now, so against 11 hours, so it works a bit better. And James has just come back from Australia last week, showing some of the solutions. So I would say every quarter there's usually one of the senior team out there which is bringing them up to speed on, what developments are coming out from the UK side. And then at least once a year, the Australian GM will come over here and spend 2 weeks over here coming up to speed with what we're doing as well.
Ronnie, you were talking about the business case for the different modules either being quantitative or qualitative. And I was just wondering, in a simplistic sense, if the savings that resulted from a quantitative implementation were what enabled Clúid to go ahead with qualitative modules, or whether the sort of case for the qualitative was sufficiently compelling that the money was found from somewhere.
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think because obviously when we looked at going down this journey, I presented the exec team and to our board, and I guess quantitatively it did stack up. So I guess that made my job somewhat easier because, you know, from a pure numbers perspective, it actually did add up. We looked at what we were spending today for what we had versus what we would have been spending for what we had plus more, so to speak, and numbers did actually stack up. Having said that, I guess you have to look at it from a case by case basis. The qualitative story was a good story. We would be doing more with the same resources, so we would grow our capacity, we would provide a better service. So they did both stack up, but I think depending on the business, I guess they would have to look at it and say, well, we're getting this better service, we're getting more capacity. How much more is that worth versus the cost? In our case, I was able to justify it on both, I guess. But I guess it's up to each business. Each business will view it differently. You know, you want to provide a better service than your competitors. How much more is that worth to you, so to speak, in terms of doing that? But from my perspective, it was a relatively straightforward case built on quantitative first, and then qualitative sort of as the cherry on top, if you like, you know.
What is the size of your professional services team compared with your 45 developers?
In software we've got about 20 professional services staff, and in managed services we've got about 10. So we've got two separate teams.
Any more questions? I'd like to thank you all for coming over and spending the time with us, but I'd especially like to thank Ronnie, because this isn't his job. So this is our job. It's not Ronnie's job. And Clúid are just in user acceptance testing. So thank you, Ronnie, for coming over.